Have you ever wondered why Japan became the land of the legendary samurai? The answer doesn't begin with swords or great battles. It begins with the land itself. Long before powerful warriors walked across the battlefield, nature was shaping the destiny of an entire nation. Japan is an island country stretching across the Pacific Ocean. It is made up of nearly 7,000 islands, although only a few of them are large enough to support major cities. What makes Japan truly unique is its landscape. Nearly 70% of the country is covered by mountains. This left very little land for farming, forcing generations of people to live close together in narrow valleys and along fertile plains. For thousands of years, every piece of farmland was precious. Rice became the foundation of life, wealth, and power. Families worked tirelessly to protect their fields because losing a harvest could mean starvation. Over time, villages grew into communities, and communities became powerful clans that competed for the same valuable land. Unlike many civilizations, Japan developed in relative isolation. The surrounding seas protected the islands from many foreign invasions, allowing Japanese culture to evolve in its own unique way. Traditions, beliefs, architecture, and customs grew stronger with each passing century. At the same time, nature constantly reminded people how fragile life could be. Japan sits on the Pacific Ring of Fire, one of the most active geological regions on Earth. Earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, tsunamis, and violent storms have shaped life on these islands for thousands of years. Entire villages could disappear overnight, yet the people always rebuilt. This determination became one of the defining characteristics of Japanese culture. As the population increased, competition for land became more intense. Small disputes between neighboring villages slowly evolved into conflicts between powerful families. Every valley, every river, and every rice field became worth fighting for. The need for protection created a new kind of warrior, one who was trained not only to fight, but also to serve with complete loyalty. These warriors would eventually become known as the samurai. For centuries, Japan was not a single united country. Instead, it was divided into many territories ruled by powerful lords called daimyo. Each lord wanted to expand his influence, increase his wealth, and strengthen his army. Alliances were made and broken, and wars became part of everyday life. This period of conflict lasted for generations. Castles appeared across the countryside, built on mountains and hills to defend important territories. Around these castles, towns grew as merchants, craftsmen, and farmers settled nearby. The castle became the heart of each domain, while the surrounding lands supplied food and resources for the armies. To protect their lord and their homeland, young warriors trained from childhood. They learned horseback riding, archery, swordsmanship, and military tactics. Training was harsh and demanded complete discipline. Physical strength alone was never enough. A samurai also needed patience, self-control, and absolute loyalty. Many people imagine samurai carrying only a katana, but history tells a different story. During much of Japan's medieval period, bows and long spears were actually the primary weapons on the battlefield. The famous katana became the warrior's symbol because it represented honor, skill, and personal responsibility rather than being the weapon used most often in combat. As samurai grew in importance, they became more than soldiers. They collected taxes, governed villages, protected trade routes, and maintained order throughout their lord's territory. In many ways, they served as military officers, administrators, and judges all at once. Their lives were guided by a philosophy that would later become known as Bushidō, or the way of the warrior. Courage, loyalty, honesty, discipline, and respect formed the foundation of their character. A samurai was expected to remain calm even in the face of death. Fear was seen as something to overcome through discipline and training. These values shaped every aspect of their daily lives. They practiced martial arts for countless hours, studied history and strategy, wrote poetry, and even participated in tea ceremonies. To the samurai, mastering the mind was just as important as mastering the sword. As the years passed, the constant wars between rival clans grew even larger. Powerful leaders dreamed of something no one had achieved for centuries: a single, united Japan. The struggle to unite the country would produce legendary battles, unforgettable heroes, and some of the greatest warriors in history. And among those leaders, 3 names would change Japan forever. Their victories would end centuries of war and begin a new chapter, unlike anything the islands had ever seen. As Japan moved into the 16th century, the country entered one of the most dramatic periods in its history. Rival clans fought endlessly for land, power, and influence. Every victory changed the balance of power, and every defeat could mean the end of an entire family line. This era became known as the Sengoku Period, or the Age of Warring States. Among the many ambitious leaders, one man stood above the rest. His name was Oda Nobunaga. Unlike other warlords, Nobunaga believed that Japan could only survive if it became one united nation. He built powerful armies, embraced new military tactics, and became one of the first Japanese commanders to use firearms on a large scale after guns arrived from Portuguese traders. Although Nobunaga conquered much of central Japan, he never completed his dream. In 1582, he was betrayed by one of his own generals and forced to take his own life. But his vision did not die with him. His most trusted successor, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, continued the campaign to unite the country. Born into a humble farming family, Hideyoshi rose through the ranks using intelligence, diplomacy, and military brilliance. His story remains one of the most remarkable examples of social mobility in Japanese history. By the end of his rule, nearly all of Japan had accepted his authority. Hideyoshi introduced reforms that stabilized the country, strengthened the government, and limited the power of local warlords. Yet after his death, the struggle for control returned once again. Everything changed in the year 1600 at the Battle of Sekigahara. More than 150,000 soldiers gathered on the battlefield in one of the largest and most important battles in Japanese history. The outcome would determine the future of the entire nation. The battle ended with a decisive victory for Tokugawa Ieyasu. 3 years later, he became shogun and established the Tokugawa shogunate. His government would rule Japan for more than 250 years, bringing an end to centuries of civil war. With peace finally established, the role of the samurai began to change. No longer needed as full-time warriors, many became government officials, judges, teachers, and administrators. Their duty shifted from fighting battles to maintaining order throughout the country. Despite the long peace, the values of the samurai remained unchanged. Bushidō continued to guide their lives. Loyalty to one's lord, honesty, discipline, courage, and self-control were expected from every warrior. These ideals shaped not only the samurai class, but eventually influenced Japanese society as a whole. Education also became an important part of samurai life. They studied history, military strategy, philosophy, calligraphy, poetry, and the teachings of Zen Buddhism. A respected samurai was expected to possess both intellectual wisdom and martial skill. Perhaps no object symbolized the samurai more than the katana. Although bows and spears had once dominated the battlefield, the katana represented the warrior's spirit. Every blade was carefully forged by master swordsmiths through a process that combined different types of steel, repeated folding, and precise heat treatment. Creating a single sword could take many months. To the samurai, a katana was far more than a weapon. It represented honor, responsibility, and family tradition. Many swords were passed down through generations and treated as priceless heirlooms. Losing one's sword was considered a great disgrace. At the same time, magnificent castles rose across Japan. These were not simply royal residences, but carefully designed military fortresses. Thick stone walls, deep moats, narrow entrances, hidden gates, and winding paths made them extremely difficult to capture. Even if an enemy entered the outer walls, reaching the main keep was often a deadly challenge. Life inside a castle was highly organized. Samurai guarded the gates, officials handled administration, merchants supplied food and goods, and craftsmen produced armor, weapons, and tools. Entire towns grew around these castles, becoming the centers of politics, trade, and culture. For more than 2 centuries, Japan experienced remarkable stability. Trade expanded, cities flourished, art and literature developed, and traditional culture reached new heights. Yet beneath this peaceful surface, enormous changes were approaching. Foreign powers were beginning to arrive, bringing new technology, new ideas, and challenges that would eventually transform Japan forever. For more than 250 years, Japan remained largely at peace under the Tokugawa shogunate. While the samurai still held their respected position in society, the world beyond Japan was changing rapidly. Powerful nations in Europe and America were expanding across the globe, driven by industry, technology, and trade. For centuries, Japan had limited contact with the outside world. But in 1853, everything changed when American Commodore Matthew Perry arrived with a fleet of modern warships. His arrival demonstrated that Japan could no longer remain isolated. The country faced a difficult choice: adapt to the modern world or risk falling behind. These events led to the Meiji Restoration.